Get started. So Coach Gordy, have you guys met Coach Ryan Gordy yet, the new AD? So he's also going to be here, right, in attendance. So I think this is a great turnout for us to have the right example of how our sports program does work here at OA, right? Because he is new, so he has no idea how we operate, right? He has no idea how things work here for us. And that we have pretty high expectations, right? There's probably 5 or 6 of you here that want to play Division I, right? And I think there's probably 6 or 7 of you that want to play college ball after, either whether it be club for fun, right? Because club is fun, it's your meal for fun, or play competitively. I think a lot of you want to do that. So, that being said, Andy's a really good resource. Like, he's coached at Xavier Division I, top 25 in the country. He coached at BU, top 25 in the country. So he has a great, right, and I'm not saying like an assistant, but he's coached, head coach at these locations, at these schools, right? And academics is important, but to me, the number one thing is it's about mental health, right? A little bit about that, and you know, it won't bore you to death on it, but I think it's gonna be able to help you that some of you may be going through things, and it's okay, right? And it's okay to try to talk to someone, figure it out, and for those who aren't, awesome. I mean, great, I don't want you to have any challenges, but if you are, there's resources, right? And there's ways you can navigate it and talk to it. So if he sparks anything, do let me know, right? We can talk offline, you can call me, get the coaches going, right? And we can start getting into our group, because I can start to work with you now a little bit. I mean, I can't coach us yet specifically. At Brewster, I can. For those who call me camp, I can, because more than 60% of the camp kids are not from Oliver Ames, so it's great. So I will be able to do some coaching with us. And then we start, guys, August 22nd. It's unbelievable. Some of you will start your junior year, which is some of your biggest years, right? Then some of you have your biggest year ahead, your senior year. Your parents are probably crying and saying, oh my gosh, it's the last of many firsts and the first of many lasts, right? So for you guys, it's really emotional. And then for incoming sophomores, it's a big year for you guys, right? Because you've had a taste of it, and now you want more, right? Then you got the incoming freshmen, then you got kids who come in 2 years from now on either the girls' side or the guys' side. So we have some other families here learning about what those roles will be and what they can expect in the next 4 or 5 years. So, good group of people. Ask questions if you have them. Don't hide. Not a good time to be shy now. Especially with you guys that I know want to try and play. Andy's a great resource to use, okay? So, Andy, just a little quick intro for you, and then get you going. But actually, Ryan, they don't know who you are, most of these guys. So this is our new AD, so everyone, nice warm welcome for Mr. Gordy. What do they call you? Mr. Gordy?
Mr. Gordy's fine.
Okay, just making sure, thank you. So, at this point now, I'm going to hand it over to Andy.
First thing I always do when I speak, I'm going to time it. We're talking probably 70 to 90 minutes. I know your time is valuable, and I know after a certain threshold I lose my effectiveness, especially with 15, 16, and 17 year olds. That's basic. Second thing, how old are you? 12? Okay, so I'm going to try to make sure my language is all right and some of my stories are within context. There's nothing out of line, but I always take that first temperature before I start. So thank you, John, for having me. Thank you, Oliver Ames, for having me. And thank you, John, for moving in the doors. I've come here twice in my life. I scored a goal, a shot off the post, tip-in to make it 2-2 in 1990. We tied, and then we came back in the winter in 1991 and lost in the state tournament here in basketball. So I am 0 for 2 here, and hopefully I will change my luck on this campus tonight. As John said, I just coached 25 years in Division I college soccer. I was at BU for 9 years as an assistant. I was in the Big Ten Northwestern for 3 years, and I was the head coach at Xavier for 12 years in the Big East. So I've been around the country, been around the world really, and I've done this for a living. And the good news is the first 20 minutes is going to be about sports. The bad news is after that, there's no more sports. So if you think I'm going to come and talk about soccer and tell you all my stories about, Big East, Big Ten, Stanford, Clemson, Notre Dame, Indiana, there'll be a couple, but it's more about making sure you leave here a little more enlightened about what kind of person you want to be. All right, so I'm going to, there's a natural progression we'll go through tonight. The first one is really Section A. I'm going to tell you about my college experience recruiting parents, being a college athlete, which is kind of what the selling point was for a lot of you. Second part, I'm going to tell you what made me successful, tell you what I was able to do and some really key components that really allowed me to be successful that I think you should take. That's the second introduction. Then I'll reintroduce myself for the third and final time, and I'll talk about my struggles, my mental health struggles. And I used to do this all the time, but I was a recruiter and I was a head coach in college, so I couldn't tell anybody what was wrong with me, and I couldn't share that, and I kept it in my back pocket. And now that I'm no longer a college coach, the biggest thing I can do and the biggest thing you can leave here with tonight is knowing about how you're doing, whether you're 13 years old or you're 55 years old. All right, so I'm a Braintree native. All right, I live in Cincinnati now. I'm here visiting my parents for the week. I'm going to do a couple of these around here, and I'm certainly excited for that. All right, so you want to be a college athlete, okay? That's important to you. You know, I'll talk about recruiting, I'll talk about college sports, and I'll talk about being a college sports parent. The first part is recruiting. What do we look for? Everybody always asks that. Well, it's different for everybody, okay? But the four main things to kind of stick handle through it real quick is TIPS. T is technique. In soccer, can you handle a ball? Are you comfortable on the ball? Do you have a technical ability? Probably in basketball, it's can you shoot a basketball? In hockey is do you have good hands? T is timing. Hey, you're really good, but we got 4 goalies next year and we don't need a goalkeeper. T is timing. I saw you play in April of your senior year. Our recruiting class is done. T is temperament. Are you calm? Are you cool in the heat? Do you have a good mannerism to you? Do you have good body language? Okay? But that's the T thing. T is transcript. How are your grades? If you leave here tonight, I want a lot of you to realize that your grades are going to open and close more doors than anything else out there. It doesn't matter how good you are, how talented you are, who your coach knows. If you don't have grades, it doesn't matter. I, T-I, intelligence, insight. Do you have a soccer IQ? Do you have a basketball IQ? Do you have a good feel for the game? I, intelligence, going back to transcript, are you an intelligent student? Can we get you admitted to the university? I, income. I used to hear his father makes $5 million. Okay, we're interested, I think. Can he play? Probably can pay for college. All right. P, psychological. That's what a lot of tonight is about. P is personality. P is parent. Parents scare coaches. Parents are the reason I'm here. Parents are the reason I don't want to do it anymore. Okay, and you'd be surprised even at our level where professional soccer is the next thing. Professional soccer to the college parent is like college soccer to the high school parent, where it's the next thing on the frontier and they put so much into it over 15, 20 years and they expect a return on their investment. But at my level, it was the end of the road for a lot of people. It was the highest level they'd get to. Their soccer career was going to end. I made that clear as freshmen, all right? And people don't like to see it end, and when it ends, it's my fault, okay? And then P is peace. Are you a piece that fits into our puzzle? Hey, you're a 6'4" left back with a long throw-in. Interesting. We could use a left-footed guy. You have a long throw-in. We need a little more size. All right, and then last is speed. S, are you fast? Fastest way to get in a team is be fast, okay? S is, you know, a number of other things, but I usually start to say TIPS. Okay, so that's the first part. Other thing that has to do with recruiting is ID camps. I'm sure you're already getting bombarded by them. What do I do at an ID camp? Well, you have to try to just, it's a crapshoot. I'm sure you get tons of emails for ID camps. There's a lot of marketing, and now I'll tell you about it again, but I run an agency to help families with their recruitment, and I have 42 kids I work with from all over the country. And what they do now is they forward me these emails and say, is this real or fake? And 9 out of 10 of them are fake. And they don't even do a good job of writing fake camp emails. Now, every once in a while, there's going to be one, hey, we saw you score the diving header goal last week. We'd like to have you on campus, okay? And that's a real ID camp email, but most of them aren't. But if you go to an ID camp, I think you should go. I think you should go when you're a freshman. I think you should go when you're a sophomore. Why? Because you're going to get recruited? No, because you're going to figure out how to do an ID camp. Anybody in here been to an ID camp? Okay. So I call ID camps job interviews. Don't do your first job interview for a job you really want. And the adults in the room know what that matters. So learn how to go to an ID camp and deal with it. Well, what does that mean? You might drive down to Rutgers and drive 6 hours, leave at 4 in the morning, get out of the car, put a penny on with a number on it, have a coach you've never met before who doesn't know your name, play with a bunch of guys who you've never met before, play out of position. You got 3 hours and you got college coaches there, and you have to figure out a way to impress them. You have to adapt. Do 1 or 2 of them early on, so your junior year when it matters and the clock's ticking and you go to the school you want to go to, you know how to do an ID camp. Understand that these camps, you understand all the time, somebody might be watching. You never know who's there. And you never know who that coach knows. So he might not recruit you for his or her school, but they know other coaches. And a great story I have is we had one at Xavier once. We had a kid from California come, and he wore pink cleats, and he wore gloves, and it wasn't that cold out. I remember, who's this kid? He was a dynamite player. He was the best player at the camp. He scored a bunch of goals. Okay? And at the end of the camp, he came up and he said, hey, I'm the best player here, coach. What do you want to do with this? I said, we're not interested. I said, what? I said, we're not interested. Here's why we weren't interested. Beginning of the camp, I blew my whistle. I said, everybody jog in. 88 kids jogged in. He walked in. Then we did small-sided games and said, hey, we've seen you score enough goals. Why don't you play right back and we'll look at you playing defense and we'll put somebody else at forward. 2 minutes into that small-sided game, he goes, hey, you, come in the back, I'm going up front. I'm like, who's this kid? Not interested. All right, but someone's always watching at these camps. And you're going to do the camps and you're going to get involved and you're going to have a list of schools. I would have a couple of reaches, 1 or 2 reaches, academically, athletically, financially, 5 or 6 that you really believe in, then maybe like a school that you really don't love but you feel pretty good with. I call that the minivan school. So we have a minivan. I don't love the car. It's not my dream car. It works. It's affordable. It's good for the kids. I'll take it, but geez, I would really like to have a Tahoe. Well, we can't go to the Tahoe. We can't afford it, but we're going to take the minivans. Probably not the best selling point for a bunch of high school kids, but that's how I look at it. All right, so you do that, and then you go on a visit, and you visit schools, and we're going to go through this very quickly, just because some of you are going to do this at some point. It's a job interview and a visit. You have to dress the right way. You're going to meet an adult and try to get a job. You're not going in trying to meet college girls. So I've seen guys come in, I'm like, dude, like this isn't like an Abercrombie and Fitch commercial here, man. This is a job interview. And when I was at Northwestern, we competed against Notre Dame all the time. We lost 14 straight guys to Notre Dame. We knocked Notre Dame out of the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, which was awesome, because nobody wanted to go to Northwestern. But one day a kid walks in, and I'm the recruiter, and I meet him down the hallway, and I open the door, and he and his dad walk in, and he is wearing a Notre Dame sweatshirt. And I'm just like, oh my God. And our head coach in Northwestern time was a total crazy guy. So I bring him coach's office, coach is like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, oh God. He goes, hey, let me ask you a question. If you worked at Mercedes, would you wear a BMW sweatshirt to work? It's like, no. He's like, then why are you wearing a Notre Dame sweatshirt? Needless to say, the kid didn't go to Northwestern. But it's a job interview. And you have to know questions to ask. You have to know about the school. You have to engage adults. You have to make eye contact. You have to have a conversation. Because you can get hundreds of thousands of dollars that day at the interview. And I'm not going to go through all of it, all right? But there's certain questions you need to ask, such as what's your coaching philosophy? Can I do this major? What is the off season like? What's your philosophy on playing freshmen, playing older guys? What do most people do when they graduate? How's your relationship with your alums? Do a lot of kids transfer? That's what you ask. You don't say, how much free stuff do I get? One kid said to me once, recruited him, I just started Xavier, recruiting, working my butt off 18 hours a day, like calling everybody. And he calls me, he goes, hey, I'm down to 2 schools, I'm going to decide next week. I'm like, great. He's like, you're one of them. I'm like, great. I'm like, is there anything else you want to ask about? And now, mind you, I talked about becoming a father, husband, all right, employee, citizen. That was my coaching philosophy. Coaching for the 35-year-old moment when you're on your back deck with your wife and your kids, and you have a home, and you have a job, and your life's come together. And I talk about family. Right? I talk about being his father, his caretaker at the university. That's what I talked about. That's what I saw. And this is what the kid asked me. Coach, are you going to be Under Armour still or Nike? Because I got to go to Nike school because I like their cleats. He didn't go to Xavier. I told him not to come. I kept track of him. He went to 4 schools in 4 years. Who was their sponsor? I don't know. All right, but you get my point, guys. You know, you have to represent yourself. You have to look at it as a job interview. The other thing you need to have is an elevator statement. Tell me about yourself. And the adults in the room know it's one of the hardest questions to answer in a job interview. I used to interview for jobs, and I'd be driving home and going over it like, I can't believe I fumbled that question. Tell me about yourself. Easy question, hard to answer. But you have to have an elevator statement, which means a 2 to 3 sentence statement about yourself, about what you're looking for, what's important to you. Winning's important to me. Every one of my guys in the agency, I got a visit tomorrow, coach. Talk about winning, how important it is to win. Talk about how much you liked high school soccer, because none of you guys are above high school soccer. This is one of the great times in your life. And one thing I do whenever I go to a high school, and I just did it over there, is I walk in and I look in the trophy case and just say, man, this is here forever. And if you can put a banner on the wall out there, you can put a trophy in that trophy case, you come back with your kids someday. I do that at Archbishop Williams. I'm in the Hall of Fame, my picture's on the wall. And like, Dad, it's you, Dad, it's you. That's there forever. And I have goosebumps talking about it. Okay? But you have to be able to represent yourself. Last couple of things with recruiting. Division I and Division III. Everybody wants to play D1. I got to play D1. Here's what I say about that. You're going to be at a wedding in 10 years. You're going to see a young lady who you find attractive. You're going to go over to her and say, I noticed you over there. Why did I sit down and talk? She's not going to say, did you play Division I or Division III? Because I only talk to guys who play Division I. No one's going to care, guys. No one's going to care. My wife played Division III. My brother played Division III at Colby. Has a degree from Colby. The buddy I'm staying with in Milton was a big-time hockey player at Colby, played professional hockey. His daughter just committed to Middlebury, another great Division III school. Nobody remembers, nobody cares. And I know you all want to go D1, but when you make a decision, you have to pursue fit. Fit. What fits? And you have to pursue what I call a 40-year decision, a 40-year commitment, where 40 years from now, you'll still be in touch with that school and it will make you who you are today. That's the opposite of what I call a 40-hour announcement. Yeah, I'm committed to BC, I'm going to the ACC, I go to BC, get any scholarship money? No. They have you major? No. The head coach called you in 3 months? No. You're going to play there? No. Can your family afford it? No. Yeah, it looks good, it sounds good, it's going to sound great for 40 hours. All right, so that's the recruiting piece. And then the last thing, guys, when you make a decision on a college, it's different for everybody and you got to pursue fit, like I said. But the exercise I always believed in the NCAA basketball tournament, my old boss was the chairman of it, and I used to talk to him about it all the time. And they get 8 teams on the bubble, they pick 4, and they put them all on a wall. And they cover the name of each team up, then there's 4 bullet points for each team. And you go through and they each have a number, and you say, who do you want? You say 2, 6, 8, and 3. Who do you want? I pick 1, 4, 7, and 2, so on and so forth. Everybody follow me? And then they come up and say, here are the 4 teams we picked. They rip the name off. Wichita State, Southern Illinois, Gonzaga, and Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart? Wow. Who didn't we pick? Texas, Florida, Cal, and Wisconsin. Everybody get that? Why do they cover the name? Is there a bias towards the name? You think you might just pick the school with his name that everybody thinks you should go to? Maybe you like a school that no one's ever heard of and you really felt right there. It's a feel thing, okay? So forget the name, pursue the school. That's my piece about recruiting, all right? The second thing with regards to this, the best guys I ever coached, I think it's important to go through that a little bit. The best guys I ever coached allowed us to push them, and I'll get back to that later on. That's important for the parents. They wanted to be pushed. They wanted to be pushed. And when I coached at Northwestern, their football coach was Pat Fitzgerald, who you might know. He was a 2-time Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. He was an Irish guy from the south side of Chicago. He was 5'9", he wasn't fast, he was just really tough and smart. And he went on and won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And he spoke to our team once. He said, here's my problem. When I was in high school, my first year at Northwestern, I didn't allow anyone to push me. And as soon as I allowed the coaches to yell at me and push me, lights went off, and I just allowed them to push me. And unfortunately, in our job now, it's dangerous to push people. It's dangerous to yell at people. It's dangerous to call people out. It's dangerous to hold people accountable. But as a parent, if you can allow people to be pushed, that's different. These guys always study video. If you have your games on video, you should watch them. It's a great tool. They were really into the diet in the training room, and I'm talking college, but they were in there stretching. And I always joke, the freshmen finish practice, they walk off the field, they shower, they're gone in 5 minutes. The juniors and seniors are in the training room before practice. They stretch on the field after. They do cold tubs. They do the boots. They're in the weight room. They're in the nutrition stuff because they know how important it is. Okay? They adapt. They adapt. Hey, I was a goal scorer in high school. Well, you're going to be a right back in college. They're adaptable. You might have to adapt. Like their locker was always neat. Seriously? All the mothers in here are like, thank God you just said that. 2001, Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl. They had a bye week. They played on Sunday. Guys got Miami, Vegas, New York. They got their jets and left. Coach came in Monday morning. Locker room's a mess. Called them all back in. Get back here and clean the locker room. You're staying all week. They won the Super Bowl that year. Right? I always believe in a clean desk, clean locker room. Urban Meyer, the old Ohio State coach, used to go up to guys' cars. Like it was crazy what you can tell by looking at somebody's car. Some of these guys like had their whole life in the car. It was a total disaster, and usually he was a disaster. All right? And then really the last one, they worked at it. They put extra time in, particularly on the fitness. And I would always take, here are the top 8 guys in a 2-mile run, and they were probably 8 out of our 11 starters. And it was amazing how the good players had the highest GPAs, and probably the best fitness times, and the cleanest lockers, and probably worked the hardest. There's no mystery that's no mistake, that's no surprise. All right? Last couple things. College athletics, guys, it's a 25 and under team. So I have guys on my team from Israel and Germany that are 25 years old. And I know I was all Hockomock League and I was all Eastern Mass, I'm a big deal here. Well, the world is big and you're playing 18 and under, now you're going to play 25 and under. At that level, the team picks itself. At that level, playing well and training every day is really important. Like here, I would go watch club and high school teams train, and the guys in there are just kind of like, yeah, I know I'm going to start no matter what, and this is a practice, I'm not into it, I'm not being pushed. Well, at the next level, you can lose your job any day, and there's a lot of people that are capable. So how are your training habits? How are your practice habits? All right. And then the last one, like I said, the team picks itself. You don't like my son. Actually, I really like your son. There's 3 guys I start that I can't stand that I don't think are great guys, but they help me win. When it's your job, the best players play. And I would do an exercise at Xavier every year. I give out 25 pieces of paper. Pick a lineup. If we have a game tomorrow, what's the lineup? And 23 of them would have the same 11 guys. And that kid would come in, so-and-so said I should start. He said I should start. I know, he put me down. He names like 8 guys. I'm like, actually, all the pieces of paper had the same lineup except 2 of them. I'm sure one of them was yours. All right, so it's a big deal. It's hard. It's year-round. It's a job. And you don't all have to want to do it, but if you really want to do it, I think you got to know what a big deal it is. All right? As far as the parent piece, and this will be the final piece of the sports part, we're 17 minutes in. Don't let them go when they go to college. Let them grow when your kid goes to college in a year. Be an MVP, most valuable parent. And I used to talk about that at Xavier a lot. Make sure we have MVPs. I'm not okay, but my son's okay at college, so I guess that's okay. Oh my God, he hasn't called me in a month. I can't believe this. I miss him. He doesn't need me. I'm a mess. Well, he's doing fine. It means you did a good job as a mother or father. All right? Training performance, like I said. Try to see past your son. He's not playing. He really wants to play. He works hard. Yeah, but we're 9-1, and we have 5 seniors out there, and these guys have played together, and your son's actually having a good time, and he's growing. He's probably going to play down the road. Those are the biggest things I see. If you're going to quit or transfer, I think you should not haphazardly do it and not be quick to pull the trigger. And I think if you're ever going to quit a team, you should do it at the end of the year. Quitting in the middle of the year is hard, but you're either in or you're out. You have a half commitment and you're not into it and you're not sure, you probably need to look at that because you don't want to be the half committed here. Okay? And then here's the last 2 things about the parent piece. I used to do a parent orientation as a college coach, and I would have 4 pictures on the screen. I would have a helicopter. Some of you are going to be helicopters. You're always looking. You're always around. And I would show snowplows. Some of you are going to be snowplows. You're just going to come at me and try to take me over. Then there was a blank page. Some of you are just, I don't ever see or hear from. That's great. Okay. Then there was a peach. Oh, his mother and father, they were a peach. They were great. Then there was Freddie from Nightmare on Elm Street. Some of them were absolute nightmares. Okay. If someone mistreats your son, I think you take action. I think if somebody, uses bad language or really is out of line with your son, fine. But if your son's not playing a lot or he comes out with 10 minutes left and they make a questionable sub, like, this is not an easy job, and unless you know a lot about soccer, you probably shouldn't question it. We had 2 guys who played for me. One's dad was a Big Ten player of the year at Penn State. The other one's dad's in the Hall of Fame in Loyola, Maryland. Those are the 2 guys I go up to and like, what do you think? And they would tell me. And those are the only 2 I ever asked. All right, so that's 19 and a half minutes, guys. The last thing about the parent piece before we go on to section 2 is, I was telling the athletic director, I have a folder at my house, and I brought it home with me, and it's thank you letters over the 25 years from people I've coached. There's been girls, there's been youth players, there's been people private lessons, Northwestern, BU, Xavier. And in the last 3 years of coaching, I had 2 thank you letters, because people seem to be less and less thankful for what a coach does, and they're looking more for the end product. They're less and less into the experience and the life skills the kids get. They're more into the soccer piece. Okay, you looking at your phone? No, look me in the eye, please. Okay. And then, ironically, we didn't make the NCAA tournament the last 3 years. We consistently made it prior to that. But these kids got a great degree. They became young men. They had great friends. I helped all of them get jobs. They're all employed. They all have master's degrees because of the COVID thing. Yet the parents in the end were upset about subs and formation and starting and not being in the MLS and things like that. Okay? So the last thing I'll say about that is the kids who we won with, who wrote me thank you letters, I yelled at, I pushed, I challenged them, I made them better men, I had arguments with the parents, and there was accountability, and we were very forthright, and we got to where we needed to go. So that was actually better and more thorough than I normally do it, all right? But that's the parent and the soccer piece. So my second intro, this is the part where you probably don't like me. Probably think I'm bragging a little bit, talking about myself. That's not the case. I have to go from the soccer piece to the Andy Fleming piece now. So I'm Andy Fleming. I just coached for 25 years. I was on national TV. I flew charter. I went to 2 Sweet 16s and an Elite 8. Coached in the Big Ten and the Big East, 2 of the best 3 conferences in the country. Made a lot of money coaching. Had a deal with Under Armour for 10 years where I got $5,000 check every year. My family got $3,000 of apparel from a catalog, and I got 500 camp shirts. That was a big deal. Okay, I got a free car from a car dealership every year. I was on TV. I was in the alumni magazine. I spoke at alumni luncheons. We opened a new building. I spoke at that. Have a lovely wife, 4 kids. have a house that I've always wanted to live in like one of the best neighborhoods in Cincinnati, have a master's degree from Northwestern. So I have a lot going for me, okay? And I lived the dream, and I really got to where I wanted to go, because this is what I wanted to do when I was 9 years old. So I say that because here are some things that I saw along the way that allowed me to do that, and allowed kids your age to become successful as well, right? It's also important because you guys all are athletes and all want to be athletes and all love sports, but sports ends every day, all right? It's the other 22 hours a day, I call this. So you do a really good job and you go play soccer for 2 hours or basketball, but then the other 22 hours a day, you're a human being. And if you stop playing in high school, then soccer ends and then life continues on. And if you play for the New England Revolution, they get out of training and they go home and they're a person, and everybody here is a person. So everybody here can work on being a person. Everybody should listen to the next part, because you're not all going to play college soccer, right? First who, then what? Can you live well, and then do you have a plan for when soccer ends? And there are some things that I really believe in about being successful. The first one is, I'm going to say a couple names. Ivy League, West Coast, Long Island, Thayer Academy, Boston Bolts, BCBU, public school, private school, Volvo, J. Crew, rap music, country music, MBTA, it's a good one around here, I think, okay, and so on and so forth. New England Patriots, Green Bay Packers, LA Raiders, Manchester United, Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, so on and so forth, okay? So when I say those names, you guys automatically think of something. It could be a picture in your mind, it could be a person, but often it's 3 or 4 superlatives or adjectives that have to do with that person. When I say that, you rush to conclusions and you make a judgment, and a thought comes to your mind, and you kind of formulate something about that product. So those are all brands, and we judge brands by what we think of them, what we hear of them, how they present themselves. But here's what's interesting too. You're a brand, you're a brand, you're a brand, you're a brand, I'm a brand, she's a brand, he's a brand, he's a brand. And I'm not talking like Kanye West, I got my clothing line, I got my TV show, I'm gonna, I'm not talking about your worldwide brand and all that stuff. I'm talking about like you as a person in the hallways of the school, in your town, in Easton, at the pizza place in Easton, at the mall. How you act in that parking lot, how you act in your neighborhood, how you treat this 8-year-old boy who lives next door. You are a brand, and people are formulating judgments on you right now, in the school. And I'm not talking about people your age as much, but more the guidance counselor, and the people who serve food in the cafeteria, and the gym teacher, and the people who write letters of recommendation for college. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but people do. And you got to start thinking about that when you do a college admissions interview, when you walk the halls of the school, so on and so forth. So I say that because whether you realize it or not, someone is watching you, like I said, but somebody might look up to you as well. And I remember in the 80s, my father used to take us in Braintree, and he would take us to these places, Needham High School, Wellesley High School, Archbishop Williams, Duxbury High School. Watch him, watch him, watch him. So Dana Barris played basketball, Billy Curley played basketball. I can go on and on with these guys, all right? And then he'd take the Patriot Ledger out. When it came out, he'd put it on the dinner table, and he'd highlight the honor roll and the National Honor Society, stuff like that. Remember that guy we went and watched? Look at him, he's in the honor roll too. And I lived in a neighborhood in Braintree where Thayer Academy is 1/4 mile away, Archbishop Williams is 3/4 mile, Braintree High is about 1 mile, and I had access to 3 different high schools, and I would get on my bike and go watch these guys practice all the time. So what am I getting at? From the time I was 9 years old, I had role models, and they were from the high schools in my town, and they're the guys that I wanted to be. And I had their stuff on my wall, and I'd go watch them. And then we'd see them at the mall, and one day my mother was like, "Did you see Peter Nezarella held the door for his girlfriend?" Peter Nezarella was a shortstop, Braintree High in 1982. And I'd see him at the mall, and sometimes going, "Hey, you're the little kid at all the games," and high-fiving me. I was like, "Oh my God." So one of you in here is that to somebody in Easton, I guarantee you. In my senior year of high school, I was at the South Shore Plaza, and I'm walking across the parking lot, and a woman came up, she's like, "Yeah, excuse me, Andy. And she's like, "You don't know me, but my son and husband go to all your games. My son loves you. You're his favorite soccer player. And Christmas is coming up, and I would love to get your autograph and give it to him for Christmas." I signed my first autograph when I was 18. Okay? And that's the day I realized, like, oh, I'm now the person that somebody else used to be to me. Somebody in this room, that's the truth. Okay? So you have a brand, and you have to start thinking about your brand. And it's okay to have 3 different kinds of brands. You have an athletic brand, an academic brand, and a social brand. And you also have to have attitudes about these things. Well, I don't really love school. Well, what's your attitude about it? But if I get a good GPA, I can get a scholarship and go to a really good school because I'm being recruited athletically. So my attitude about athletics is, academics is, can I use that to help my athletics? And you can have 3 different brands. They can be totally different, and they can all work. Everybody follow me? So I'll give you 2 examples. There was a guy at Northwestern. My son was born in May of 2009, and I had to go to the office to get some stuff. And I wanted to take him everywhere. I was so proud. And I bring him in the car seat and I put him down. I'm just getting some mail and a couple folders. And I look out of the corner of my eye in the doorway, and I see this guy standing there. And he's 6'5", 285-pound Nigerian guy. And I knew him. I knew of him. And he looks at me and he says, his voice like this, "Coach, I heard you had a baby. Is that the baby?" I'm like, "Yes." He said, "Can I hold the baby?" I'm like, "Yes." And I gave him my son, and my son looked like he was like this big in his hand. This guy's huge. Now, mind you, as he says this, he has wire rim glasses on, polo button down, pleated khakis, penny loafers. 6'5", 285, Nigerian dude, Big Ten football player. He had a 3.0 at Northwestern. He was a great student. He knew everybody, talked to everybody. He got along with everybody. He came to soccer games, which is really uncommon for a Big Ten football player. Good grades at a leading institute. Soft-spoken, gentle guy, outgoing. Looks like he should work at a bank. Got it? So we get his academic brand. We get his social brand. Everybody get it? Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, though, that dude, absolute maniac. Ripping people's helmets off, blood in his shirt, throwing Gatorade things on the field, personal fouls ejected. He was one bad dude. And he was a DN, and he went to the NFL for 8 years. I'm still friends with him on social media, and he's got a pretty good life now. I'm sure his money is well invested. He has a Northwestern degree. He's got 2 kids. So he was "Oh, you're a dumb jock, you're a football player. That must mean you don't do well in school." No, I had my academic brand. "Oh, you're a nice, soft-spoken guy. You're a football player. You don't wear Adidas stuff all the time." No, I'm actually very well-dressed, and I'm very proper and a little preppy. "Oh, you're loud and boisterous. You're a defensive end. You're a loudmouth football player." No, socially, I'm very, engaging, but I'm kind of quiet. So what do you like when you play then? Oh, that's a totally different thing. His thing is like, I got to get paid, so when I step over the line, I hit the brand. All right, so think about that. You can have different brands that can all work together. You also need to have goals for these areas as well. So academic brand, athletic brand, social brand. Attitudes about all of them. If you can't do well in school, you have to find a way to do well in school. If you're weak at something, you have to find a way to supplement it. And I can tell you one way to do that is knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to public speak, and knowing how to work effectively in teams. What does that mean? When you get to college, you're going to have to present more. When you're going to have a job someday, you're going to have to be able to interview and talk to people. If you have a sales job, you're going to have to be able to talk to people. You're going to work with others in teams. You have to find out a way to be a good teammate. I started my master's degree at Northwestern, May, my first year there. I went downtown because it's on the city campus. The very first night I get to class, I have an Adidas tracksuit on. I came from practice. I'm sitting there. I'm 28 years old, 29 years old. And these guys get up and everybody introduces themselves, and these girls introduce themselves, and they all have like suits on, and they all work for like the Chicago Blackhawks or IMG, and they all, all these really good schools, and they sound so smart. And I get up and I can tell some people were kind of making fun of me. I had like Adidas stuff on when I was a coach. So I was supposed to be the dumbest guy. So it's a 3-hour class. I go out during the break, I call my wife and I said, "Amy, I'm coming home. I'll be home in like 15 minutes." She's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Amy, I can't do this. I don't belong here." I'm like, "I'm going to get my ass kicked. Like, these people are all so much better than me. They're all corporate." She's like, "Andy, everybody knows you." She goes, "You'll be the," she goes, "you might not be the most intelligent guy in the room, you're the smartest guy in the room." She goes, "Go be yourself and figure it out." So I start doing it. I get an A and I get another A. It's a lot of group projects. I try to find what I'm good at and I help the group. I am the talker and the presenter because I've always been a good speaker. And that's how I become effective, even though I'm not the smartest guy. 2 years later, I'm walking down the hall one night, and this guy's walking down the hall, an older guy. He stops, he goes, "Coach, what's up?" I'm like, "How you doing?" He goes, "You have no idea who I am, do you?" I said, "No." He goes, "I was standing right over there in my office the night you called your wife. It was your first night at school here, and you said, 'I'm coming home, I can't do this.'" He goes, "I found out who you were, I checked on your grades. You're almost done, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to finish it." He goes, "You've gotten all A's and B's, haven't you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "And remember how doubtful of yourself you were that night?" Okay, so my point with that is, guys, I took my social brand and I helped it supplement my academic brand. All right, but academic, athletic, and social, attitudes and goals, like I talked about, having role models. So now you got your goals, okay, your brands, okay? You also need to have goals. Academic, athletic, social goals. Write them down. Some of you don't have any goals, you have no roadmap, you have no direction, you're just kind of doing. So, before my senior year, I sat down, well, let's go before that. My mother, God love her, she's 82 years old. She is a national semifinalist to be on the show Quarters. It's a joke. But she sent this to me a year ago. This is not a pirate treasure map from Miles Standish Forest. This is 1989, August, before my freshman year of high school, goals I wrote down, what I wanted to do in soccer. And she kept it, and I had it. And if you notice, most of them are checked off. Okay, so this is pretty cool, but it also shows you like it's not too early to start writing stuff down that can happen 3 or 4 years from now. So you have to write them down. They have to be smarter, S specific, M measurable, A attainable, R realistic, T time sensitive. And I think that explains itself. S specific, I want to put 10 pounds on. That's specific. M measurable, can I put 10 pounds on? A attainable, I can't coach Manchester United, so I'm not going to try to do that. M measurable, I want to be the awesomest person in the world, but you can't measure that. Okay, R realistic kind of goes with attainable. T is time sensitive. Some of you should have some goals for preseason. Some of you should have some goals written down for camp next week. Have first semester goals, academic, athletic, and social. Write them down. Write them down. Put them where you can see them. And then the other thing with SMART goals is ER at the end. All right? Evaluate is E and R is rewrite. Because you have to live your life with an eraser in your hand. And you have to write your life down in pencil. And that's the biggest problem now is people don't want to adapt. So you have academic, athletic, and social goals. Before my senior year, back of the door in my bedroom, huge piece of poster board. 5 players in the league that I played in at Archie's who were better than me were my main competition for Player of the Year. Second thing, National Honor Society. I did not get in the National Honor Society my junior year because I screwed around too much in class. I had the grades, but I was an entertainer in class. Shocking. All right? 3, get my driver's license, make sure I go out 2 weekends a month. Some of you guys aren't engaging with anybody socially. Some of you guys should want to go to homecoming. Some of you guys maybe want to get a job. All right? Some of you need to do some more stuff socially. And then 5, it was a young lady who had a boyfriend for 3 years. He was going off to college. She was going to be a senior. He was gone. I'm like, that's why I want my girlfriend. She ended up being my girlfriend. She's a little crazy, but she was my girlfriend. Okay? So I had a social goal. All right? And I would look every night before I went to bed. I'd go in my room. What do? You shut the door and you look at it. Go lay down in my bed before I go to bed for the night. I look at it. All right, that's right. Wake up in the morning, go to open the door. I look at it. And that was my why. And that was my why. And I missed my junior year the whole year because I was injured. And I had one last shot to have a great senior year. And that was my why. And I'll tell you, like I thought about the other day, I was on a mission my senior year. Absolute mission. To the point where it's a little crazy, but the guy who hurt me didn't even know he hurt me. And we played his team, and I scored 8 seconds into the game, and I ran up to him, and I'm screaming at him. My brother's holding me back, and I was like, you ruined my life for a year. And he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. Okay? Like, all year long, I was thinking of that guy, these 5 players, the National Honor Society, and I checked all the boxes off my senior year. And again, this is where you don't like me, because I'm talking about myself. I get it. It's going to change. Okay? But here's the other thing about senior year. I had 2 groups of friends my junior year. One group who weren't great guys that were really fast and fun and starting to drink and do some other things. They were cool. And then I had 5 others who were really good guys and really genuine friends and really cared about me and probably were a little boring for my liking. In one spring afternoon after baseball practice, Al Galata or Al AD, I was walking in my car. I remember where it was. It was a sunny day. It was behind the school. He tapped me on the shoulder. He said, Fleming. I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's end of junior year. I'm like, yep. He's like, you're being recruited for baseball and soccer Division I. I said, yep. He goes, just let me give you a piece of advice. You get 2 groups of friends. You're at a fork in the road with your friends. You know which group of friends you need to pick. And he walked away. Walked away. So when I tell you I checked all the boxes off my senior year, I also had the right people around me. Follow me? Because your crew is big. And there's a couple of you guys that hang around, some guys your parents don't like. And I will tell you that if your parents don't like a kid, 99.7% of the time they're right. And your crew defines you, and the 5 people you're around the most have a huge influence on what you become. Okay, so that's the goal setting part. Some other stuff about goal setting, guys. You have to make sure they're realistic. And I say that because sometimes everybody says, oh, be realistic. Be realistic can also mean let's set big goals. Some of you guys shoot too low. Hey, I think I want to score 1 goal this year. Why don't you say score 6 goals? Like some of you aren't realistic enough, meaning you have to do more. You also need to have some process goals, not just outcome goals. So National Honor Society is an outcome goal, Division I scholarship is an outcome goal, but like, what are my process goals? What can I do things on a daily basis as far as how I live? I want to eat 2 extra sandwiches a day and a protein shake. I want to lift weights twice a week during the season. Every Sunday I want to make a list of things to do for the week and maybe make a weekly schedule. Maybe next summer I want to read 2 books on becoming a better person or motivation or sports psychology. I want to make sure I get a job, maybe 3 hours a week, just so I have some money so I don't have to take from my parents all the time. And I want to be on time, I want to be a good leader, I want to make sure I'm sleeping 8 hours a night. These are all process goals that are going to allow you to get your outcome goals. You have to have some of those. I say that because, you have to consider this too. There's got to be a stretch goal. And I stopped setting stretch goals probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I had a goal to be the coach at Ohio State, and that was supposed to be the next job that opened, and the word on the street was I was going to get the next job, and I was always coaching for that, which was probably the wrong thing. And I probably had some stretch goals when I was a young assistant, and I stopped setting stretch goals, all right? The other thing that has to go along with it, guys, is how about happiness as a goal? I want to do this, I want this, I want this. And then sometimes people get there like, oh, I'm not that happy. And I have a friend of mine who has a lot of money, a nice house, 3 cars, vacations, all this stuff, but I'm not sure he's very happy. And I'm really happy now that I'm not coaching. It took me getting out of coaching to get there. And he says, you seem really happy. And I said, yeah, I have a lot less money than you. I kind of don't have a job. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm actually happy. And you have everything, but I feel like you have nothing. And then the other thing is you set goals. How about doing them for others? So you saw Argentina win a championship last year. Who's the first player they ran over to? Messi, because he never won a trophy. And they played for Messi. And sometimes you see people play for someone who's sick or whatever. Well, when I first got to Xavier, we lived in an okay neighborhood on the other side of the tracks in a really nice town. There's a main road dividing, and on the other side of the main road is a really, really nice neighborhood. My kids had to get rides to go to their friends, and we would go see our friends. We had to drive over there or walk or ride our bikes, and we were the only ones that lived on the other side of the tracks. And every game during the national anthem, I would stand there and I would think of that street, and I would say, you got to get your family to the other side of Worcester Pike. And that was my why. It had nothing to do with me, it was for other people. So if you want to do something for your parents, you want to do something for your sister, make sure you have goals for other people here. Okay? The other thing about having things in pencil, guys, I'll tell you a quick story. I played high school baseball with a guy named Peter Kendall. You may have heard of him. He did 14 years in the NFL. He's 50 years old if I'm 48. He went to Boston College. He was a lineman. And our spring, before our senior year, he was one of the top recruits in the country. So Joe Paterno was at our school, Lou Holtz was at our school, and he dove into first base playing baseball and broke his wrist. And he was in a cast for 7 weeks during the most important recruiting time of the year. That was 7 weeks of weightlifting. And he was devastated. And everybody went crazy, and everyone said, oh my God, oh my God. And then 3 days later, I remember I went in the weight room, and he was laying on the ground doing the leg press. Then he went over and had the squats. And he put 18 pounds on of leg muscle and actually got stronger and put weight on, even though he broke his wrist. And I remember he walked by and he's like, had to get out the eraser, Flem, had to change my goals, Flem, had to use the pencil, Flem. That's how he talked. Okay, so keep that in mind. Last thing with goal setting is you have to have a list. And I'm not encouraging violent behavior or psychotic behavior or anything like that, but you have to have a list of people who told you no, who didn't pick you for a team, who probably screwed you over, probably overlooked you, probably owe you something, and don't forget these people. And I'm not saying you're violent about it or crazy, but you have to have a list. You have to have a list. And I had a list of every school, and I'll talk more about my struggle to become a head coach. I went 0 for 15 in head coaching job interviews. And I got a head coaching job and went to 3 straight NCAA tournaments and had the #1 single season turnaround in college soccer history. We were top 10 in the country 4 different times, all right? But it took me 15 tries. But I had a list in my office of all those schools. We played 11 of them, and we beat 11 of them. Couldn't play Denver, too far away. There's a couple we didn't get to, all right? But you got to have a list. And again, I'm not saying you burn it, you put gasoline on and burn it every day, okay? It's not like an anger thing, but don't forget. Don't forget, because there's a guy in Braintree who cut me from the basketball team in 7th and 8th grade, and I saw him when I was 19 years old, and my mother was like, do you remember Mr. Lynn? I'm like, Mr. Lynn, I can't shake your hand, sorry. Probably wrong on my part. That dude is the only guy that ever cut me, and that guy made me so mad, and I never forgot it. And my son, going into 8th grade, smallest kid in his grade, feel bad for him. Somebody in here's been the smallest kid their whole life, Really skillful, good player, okay? great passion for the game, great IQ for the game, but just small, gets pushed around. 2 years ago, he didn't make the top team. He didn't make the MLS next team in Cincinnati. Devastated. Okay. So we said, Dad, I'm going to put that guy on my list. 7th grade. That was fun. So they play him on a Saturday. The higher team, they won 5-0. The other team, my son's terrible. We're driving home. Like, you want to talk about it? Because the car ride home, parents, the kids have to dictate it. I said, do you want to talk about it? He goes, no, Dad, I know what's going on. I'm a pretty accountable kid. We get to the house. He's like, stay in the car. I'm like, what? He's like, stay in the car. Okay. And he goes in and gets a bag of balls. He gets a water, gets a granola bar. He goes, take me to the high school. Okay. Take him to the high school. He goes, come back in an hour. Okay. Come back. Next day they play the team again. My son's team wins 3-0. He scores a direct kick over a wall, a side volley off a corner kick, and then the other goal. And we get in the car. He's like, the car was on my list, Dad. The car was on my list. Pretty funny story. Okay, but you have to have a list here. So, moving along, we do the goals. We do the brands, and that leads to what I call the ideal you. What does the ideal sophomore high school version of you look like? What does the ideal senior year of high school version of you look like? What does the ideal 35-year-old version of you look like? Well, I'm not really there yet, but you're going to get there in college. And I would challenge recruits on recruiting visits to think of that, and I would say you're on the back deck, you're with your spouse, you have a dog, the grill's on, you're playing some music, your kids are running around, and you're talking to your significant other, and you're just like, this is where I'm at. What do I do for a living? Who am I? What do I want to be known for? What do I want other people to say about me? Particularly as a person, particularly as a son, as a brother, as a teammate, as a citizen. You can score 25 goals but be a total you-know-what. Can you be a good guy and be a good student and be a good athlete? And that's the ideal you, and you take that and you make a roadmap. And you have to have a roadmap as far as what the next 3 to 5 years look like. And real quick to go through the roadmap, there's going to be a big sign at the end. So maybe for this, if you want to do a season, it's state finals. Maybe it's Division I college soccer. And maybe it's certified public account, maybe it's where, but that's the big sign at the end. And then along the way you have different exits, because those are stops along the way that you have to hit before you can go to the big sign. There's also little signs. Dangerous corner, slippery with ice, beware of deer, things like that. Little things that are telling you, hey, beware of this along the way. There's guardrails to make sure that you're going off, you kind of get back on. Your parents are guardrails, your friends are guardrails, your coaches are guardrails, and that means you have to be a guardrail to somebody else. If you see somebody who's going off the road a little bit, not literally but figuratively, you got to help them. But if it's too big for you, anybody in this room, they used to tell us this as coaches, get it off your lap, get it off your desk, and get it to a professional. And that's more the mental health stuff for later. All right, but you're going to have a roadmap, and you're going to have lanes to stay in, you're going to have speeds to go at, you're going to have other cars go by you. Oh, he's already getting recruited, oh, he beat ODP. Like, people are going to go by you, but you're going to probably go 65, 70 miles an hour. You don't need to go 100, but you certainly can't go 20. Right? Direction is more important than speed, particularly in 8th, 9th grade, 10th grade. Senior year, speed becomes a little bit important. Passion and consistency, resiliency and stamina are more important than talent. And some of you guys think it's all just talent and you want to be good now. If you do it in college or you do it like I did for 25 years, like you need some stamina and you need to really like it. And there's going to be days you don't want to do it and you gotta kind of fake it sometimes. Okay? Can you do something you like and get paid for it? I was fortunate enough to do that. Right? But as far as success, the last couple things really, guys, have to do with attitude and mental capacity and criticism and accountability. All right? And I'll start with Manchester United, and you don't have to be a fan to listen to this, but they have a formula they do in their youth system. It's called B plus A equals A. B minus plus A equals A minus. A plus C equals F. Everybody get that? So if you have A ability and a C attitude, they actually grade you as an F. If you have A minus ability, or sorry, B plus ability and an A attitude, they grade you as an A. These are young players with their trajectory and where they predict they can go. So a lot of times, the higher the level, the more your mental stuff and your attitude and how you're viewed mentally is going to get you somewhere. Great story with that about Harry Kane. You guys all know Harry Kane, one of the leading goal scorers in the world. He was brought up in Tottenham Hotspur's system, and there was a guy who played in Cincinnati a couple of years ago who played the same system as him. Same year, same birth year, same position. So he gets brought in a room when he's 18, because in England, when you're 18, you either get signed to a pro contract or you get released. And that's how it is over there. A lot of you know that. And they basically sat him down and they had his name and Harry Kane's name and then a chart. And it said goal scoring ability, technical ability, soccer IQ, physical attributes, work rate, whatever, coachability. And then the last one said mental capacity. They were even in every category except for mental capacity. Harry Kane had an A, said very calm, can take coaching, doesn't get too upset with himself. The other guy had a C-. And they signed Harry Kane. And then this guy came over and played in the USL and worked camps and played in Cincinnati. And it's not a sad story, but it just goes to show you the fine line between somebody making it, not making, and how important the mental piece is. I have a grade in a journal of every game I've coached the last 15 years. I have a grade of every practice from the last 15 years. And you can be like, what a loser. That's fine. But I don't think enough of you guys grade yourselves on whether you are an accountant, an insurance person, a real estate agent, a doctor, a truck driver, whatever it is. Do you grade yourself? Do you actually, invested in what you're doing? We also had a board in our locker room at Xavier's called the player faker board. It was just like this. And everybody on the team's name was on it. And then there was a magnet next to their name. And there's two columns, player and faker. And certain days, particularly in the spring and the non-traditional season, we would do the player faker board, and I would walk in and say, guys, today's the player faker day. So what that means is at the end of practice, I thought I was a player today. Joe Smith, I thought I was a faker. And you would come in and you would grade yourself. Then you'd go shower, get changed, get a snack, see the trainer, and then before the guys left, I would go in and I would either move the magnet or keep it. And sometimes as a freshman who felt sorry for himself, he'd put faker, hoping coach would say, no, you did a good job, and I would keep it at faker. And guys would go home knowing how they did that day, and they had a grade. You grading yourself? Are you grading yourself each day? They say you should grade yourself twice a day. Stop in the middle of the day, and then grade yourself at the end of the day. Man, I'm having a real bad day. I'm kind of being moody, kind of being mean to my mother. I got to play a big game today, and it's 12:30. I did bad in that test. I got to press pause, and I got to kind of reassess myself and start over again. But can you grade yourself? Can you be committed, which means you're really into it, you care, and you're emotionally into it, or are you just compliant? And all the adults in the room know there's compliant people who show up at 8:59 every morning. They sit in their chair. I'm at work. I'm on time. And then at 4:58, they put the jacket on and zip it up to here. At 4:59, they put it up to here. And then at 5 o'clock, they zip it and they walk out. They don't do anything at home. They don't check their email on vacation. They don't go to anybody's retirement dinner. They don't care about their job. They're just compliant. They're not committed. That explains why just 13% of Americans are engaged at work and satisfied at work and like what they do. Try to find something you like to do. Most of you aren't going to like what you do, so you're going to have to find a way to be professional and have a good attitude about it. Because attitude and durability and sustainability and stamina, those things matter more than how talented you are. Okay? Last couple things with regard to this. Can you do something over and over again that's really boring? Okay, and can you not see gains from it, but understand it's going to come over time, it's going to lead to something. So Rowdy Gaines was an Olympic swimmer in the 80s, and he calculated he swam 20,000 miles in 8 years to get ready for the Olympics. And then he had to race at the Olympics for his event. Ready, set, go, goes down, comes back. His race took 49 seconds. So he trained 4 years for a race that took 49 seconds. He swam 20,000 miles for a race that took 49 seconds. I was an assistant coach for 13 years, and when I tell you I almost quit a few times because I couldn't get the next job, that's not a lie. Okay? Going to the recruiting events, making the recruiting calls, showing up every day, doing the resume, applying for jobs, going to job interviews. At one point I thought it wasn't going to happen again, but you have to find passion in the process. You have to find some beauty in the process. You have to stay in love, as they say. You have to find a way to stay in love with what you're doing here. And it's going to be boring, but you're making gains even though you don't realize it. All right, so the last couple of things about performance is, can I be honest? Can I be consistent? Can I have passion? And can I be resilient? And then the last thing, everybody, don't cheat. Be honest. Don't take shortcuts. Do a good job. There's a story about a guy who built homes for a living, who's really good at it. I'm sure some of you have seen it, it's in a book. And he went to tell the company he was done working. He goes, I'm not doing this anymore. This is the last house. And thank you for your service, and I'm going to retire. And they said, can you do one more house? He said, I really don't want to do one more house. They said, just do one more house. We really need to build one more house. So he talked to his wife, and the wife's like, well, you really don't feel like doing it? He goes, no, I really don't feel like doing it, but I'll do it fine. And he built that final house, and he took shortcuts. And he didn't do what he normally does. And he took days off, and he kind of bailed out early, and he went through the house a lot faster than he normally does. And he knew he wasn't doing a good job because he wasn't emotionally in it. Everybody follow me? So when he retired, they had a retirement dinner for him, and they brought him in front of the company, and they presented him with a picture, and he opened it, and they said, "This is yours," and what do you think the picture was of? House he just built. So it was his house. They gave him a free house, but he shortcut that house, and now he has to live in the house. So you never know. You never know. You never know who's watching, and I'll say that over and over and over again. My buddy's son went and played at Walpole last night, hockey, came home, 9 o'clock, middle of the summer, Wednesday night game. The Calgary Flames had a scout there, and then there were 2 guys from Quebec Major Junior there, and the BC assistant was there. So how'd you play? He's like, great. I'm like, see, you never know who's going to be there. You have to go and be ready all the time. I was coaching the game in Northwestern. I was an assistant. We played Wisconsin. We won 3-0. I'll remember the game. It was a Saturday day game. I did my normal thing, thought nothing of it, went home. Later on that winter, I got a call from the AD at Holy Cross. He said, "Hey, we have an opening for our head coaching job, and we'd like to talk to you." I said, "Great." He goes, "You came recommended by a guy named Rick McDonald." I said, "Oh." He goes, "You don't know who Rick McDonald is, do you?" I said, "No." He goes, "Yeah, he's an alum. He lives in Chicago near Northwestern. And he went to one of your games last fall and watched you. And he called me on the way home and said, I have our next head coach. I just found him, the guy at Northwestern." I didn't know he was there that day. So that's a really important one, all right, as far as goal setting, attitude, and not cheating. And then the last thing with that is really the person who's handling your money. Do you want them to cheat? The person who flew my plane yesterday, you think I wanted him to cheat? The person who's performing your surgery, you think you want that person to cheat? So if they're not going to cheat, why should you cheat? That's round 2, okay? Last round. This is the big one. This is the most important one. I ask you not to laugh at anything I say, because I've had people laugh. Some of it's funny, but I ask you not to laugh. I ask you to make eye contact. This is about me, but it's for you. Just told you about what a successful career I had and how I think my life is pretty good, and how I kind of really checked a lot of boxes as far as what I wanted to do. Now I'm going to tell you about what didn't go right. 0 for 15 head coaching interviews. Couldn't get a job. Devastated, heartbroken, cried like a baby. Came home from one of the interviews, my wife's at the kitchen table, we live in Chicago. She's bawling her eyes out. I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, I just wish somebody would give me a chance because I know how hard you work. And I'm not going to cry when I say it, but I have cried when I told that story. Then I get a head coaching job. In the first 6 games I coach, we don't win any games. And we score 1 goal. And we can't even get over midfield. And the team I inherited won 4 games combined the 2 years prior. And we were awful. So I worked for 13 years, I do all these job interviews, I finally get a job, and I'm a head coach, and I'm ready to go, and I have this vision, and then we can't win a game. National Honor Society, didn't get in junior year. Met my wife when I was 29. Couldn't get a girl to like me, couldn't date, was working all the time, probably committed to coaching. That had a lot to do with it, but all my friends were settling down, moving in with their girlfriends, getting married, moving away, and I was kind of like the last guy. Didn't think anybody would like me. So I can't get a head coaching job. I can't settle down with a significant other. Down on my luck, low self-esteem. When I was in youth sports, I was not a great athlete. I got cut from a couple teams, and I didn't make travel a couple times, and I really became a really good athlete. In 9th grade, I was a big mover. And then the last thing, guys, I tore my ACL the very first day of college. So when I tell you it needs to be a fit, and you need to go to a school that you like, and you have to say, if there's no soccer here or I can't play, can I be okay? My father would always say that to me, and I'm sitting in the back of an ambulance the first day, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. And all I want to do is play college soccer. So that's a little bit about me. To let you know, hey, I sat in your chair, and I had struggles. And I hated high school, and I had some wrong friends, and I didn't get what I wanted to, and I had my heart broken, and I was told no, and I was undersized, and I dealt with my parents and all the stuff we did. Okay. I also talked to a woman once a week named Rachel. Since I was 19 years old, I've gone to therapy every week. I take medication when I have a bad day because I have some chemical issues and some mental health issues. I thought about taking it today before I spoke tonight because I kind of had a weird day and I was really antsy and I was kind of jumpy today. And I said, no, when I speak to these people, I need to be raw and I need to be not on medication. I got to show them what I mean. Okay? I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So in 2007, we beat Indiana, huge win for us. Indiana's the Alabama football college soccer. And that day I wore a certain pair of shoes for the pregame meal. And that day John Mellencamp was on the radio. And that day I walked down to my car a certain way. I crossed the street because I thought it was on one side, and I went back over because it was on the opposite side. Everybody follow me? So what do you think I did the next day? I wore the shoes, I go to my car, it's over there, I cross the street and go over, I put John Mellencamp on the radio, we won again. Then we win a couple more games. So I add a couple more things to the list. And then 5 years in, I'm doing 85 things the day of a game on a list because I think that's how we're going to win the game. And it was absolutely out of control, and it took over my life. And we're playing Georgetown, they're number 3 in the country, we're number 8, and I'm a big-time head coach, and there's 3,000 people there, and I'm sitting in my car outside of the stadium trying to get John Mellencamp to come on the radio, because John Mellencamp has to come on the radio, and we're not going to win. And I really believe that was what the cause of my success was. So it got out of control, and I had to get help for it. I wouldn't walk on a crack the day of a game, and we're in St. Louis in a hotel, and there's tiles everywhere, and I'm going like this, and my AD's looking at me like, what's going on with that guy? I'm like, oh, I'm pretty superstitious. That's embarrassing. I have anxiety issues. So I didn't get in an Uber for 2 years, or I would get in an Uber, and I would curl up in a ball and go like this because I was so afraid the Uber was going to crash because I didn't trust the Uber driver. And I credit my friends, because they were great about it. They would rub me on the shoulder, pat me in the back. We're almost there, Andrew. About half a mile left. We just went by Domino's Pizza. You know where we're at. And I literally, in my mind, could count and picture how long it took to go to the places we go. And it's like 3.5 miles from my house, and I always knew exactly where we're at, and I'd peak. I ride an Uber now with confidence and calmness. I wouldn't go to a Christie's, I wouldn't go to a convenience store to get milk, I wouldn't go to get gum, I wouldn't go to get beer because I was afraid it was going to get held up and I was going to get killed. This is real anxiety. So, I'm this guy with this Under Armour contract, and I'm on TV, and I'm this hot coaching candidate, and I coach in the Big East, and I'm speaking and telling people how to live their lives and tell them everything's going to be great, and people drive by my house and think that I get it all together. No way. Goes on to this day. And here's my biggest message with that. It's okay to not be okay. It's never been more okay to not be okay. And the older people in the room will tell you, like, you used to not be able to talk to anybody about this. And this started, like, in high school. And I would go see a guy because of my temper, but I remember being in college or taking the SAT, and I can't sit still, and just getting all this anxiety and nerves, and I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't talk to anybody about it because no one knew anything about it. Or if you spoke up about it, everybody made fun of you. Well, now, it's pretty cool to be not okay. And there's never been a better time to not be okay. And there's more resources out there than ever before to not be okay. And I always said to myself, imagine what you would have done if you were okay. Like, I did all this stuff that I accomplished, not okay. I hate flying, super superstitious, awful loser, people pleaser, and I was a coach. So I flew to Africa, flew to Norway, flew to Finland. We fly 25 times a year. I hate flying. I'm like, this is the job that I love, and I can't sit in the plane. I'm in my car trying to put John Mellencamp on. Man, you lived the dream. You're in the Big East. You're top 25 coach. Yeah, and I hated every second of it. But that's the biggest thing now, is to let you guys know it's okay to not be okay. All right? On May 28, 2017, I was with my son at a baseball field. My son has really come a long way. He's doing great. But he had a bad temper, and he was acting like a total idiot. And I said, that's because of you. That's your son. And he's going to be like you. And that day, our baseball team won their 3rd straight conference championship to go to the NCAA tournament, and we hadn't been in 2 years. So people used to ask me, and this was really crazy, hey, how you doing? Good, we won 2 games in a row. Hey, how's it going? Good, we had a good recruiting yesterday. Hey, how's it going? Good, I sold out my camp last week. My answer to how you're doing was all about soccer and results and metrics. Everybody follow me? It's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, my GPA is a 3.5. That's not how you doing. How are you doing? So baseball was overtaking soccer as the thing next to basketball, Xavier, and I decided I was going to kill myself that day. And I had a plan. And I was going to go down into the woods near our house. I was going to sit in my car. I was going to drink some type of poison, and I was going to end. Was I going to do it that day? I don't know, but I had a plan, and I really thought of it, and I hated myself. And you know what? You're all going to hate yourself at some point. You're going to be disappointed with yourself. But it's not worth going to the extreme for. And part of being a teenager is dealing with crap and having people make fun of you and having to recover from stuff and getting through some crap. So it's not uncommon. So I had a plan. And they say if you have a plan, all right, that's trouble. So I say that because it's really interesting A couple things I want to talk about. If you think about physical health, hey, I went to the gym, hey, I have a personal trainer, hey, I lost 10 pounds, oh, I gotta get a workout in, oh, I gotta make sure I'm really careful what I eat, oh, I'm paying all this money for supplements, oh, I put a picture up on the internet when I put some muscle on. That's physical health. But how do we treat mental health? Oh, there's something wrong with you? Well, hey, you want to talk to anybody? No, I don't want anybody to know. Want to go to marriage counseling? No, we can't go to marriage counseling. Dude, calm down. Why are you so nervous? I'd love to calm down. I don't know how to calm down. And some of you guys can't calm down. You know what it's like. Relax, dude. I want to relax. I don't know how to relax. So take your mental health seriously, just like we do our physical health. Write a journal down. Stop yourself twice a day. Press pause. Talk to yourself. And I'm not making fun of people who are homeless or have, psychiatric issues. Obviously, I'm not. But I'm not talking about talk to yourself like the person you see in the middle of the street. I'm saying once in a while, just say, hey, dude, we got it. Calm down. Because your words are 10 times more influential than anybody else's. And you can talk to yourself and you can coach yourself. And that goes back to devoting some time to reading about mental health, coaching yourself, being a good friend, keeping an eye on somebody, being intentional of when you feel like things are going crazy, you're not doing well, slowing down, or asking somebody to help you. Just like you ask someone to help you lift weights, you ask a trainer to design a program for you, or somebody to give you a nutritionist to help you eat. I'm so into how I look. Well, let's be into how we feel. 4 things with that. 1, it's really not as bad as you think sometimes, and you have to understand that, adversity is part of life. So the first one is the menu. And I'll talk more about the menu later on with my daughter, but Travis Roy used to work at BU with me. And some of you know or don't know, he passed away recently, but he was a hockey player, played at BU, and 11 seconds into his first shift as a college hockey player, he fractured his vertebrae and was paralyzed, quadriplegic, wheelchair. 11 seconds into his first college shift. And his whole goal was to play college hockey at BU. And when he's laying on the ground, his dad came up to the ice, he looked at his dad, and everyone knew what he said. He said to his dad, Dad, we made it. I made it. And that was it. But he talked to me about the menu. And I said, Trev, tell me. And he said, well, Andy, there's a menu sometimes. And sometimes you have to look at a menu to realize, geez, other things are really bad. And what I have on the menu isn't that bad. And he said, I have the worst thing on the menu. Okay? How's the menu? My God, she broke up with me today. I can't believe this. I know it seems bad, but what's that compared to going missing? What's that compared to getting in a really bad car accident? What's that compared to losing a parent? What's that compared to your parents getting divorced? It's not that bad. That's the menu. Second one is the golf ball. So some of you golf's very popular now. I got about 15 more minutes, guys. So years ago when they invented the golf ball, it was like a ping pong ball. It was round, it was smooth, they'd hit it, and it would go sideways. And the interns at night had to go out in the field and collect all the golf balls and bring them back. They threw them out, and they noticed they had all these dents in them. So one night the interns are screwing around, it's late at night, they put the dented golf balls down, they hit it, and it goes in a straight line. 5 in a row go in a straight line. And they're like, we gotta bring these to the guys the next day. These went in a straight line. They said, oh, the dents aerodynamically allow the ball to go in a straight line. Everybody follow me? Well, listen, when you're 17, you don't have any dents, so you can't go in a straight line. But as you get older, you have some dents, you have some scars, you have some resiliency, and you have some grit. And that grit allows you to endure through things and deal with things and read the menu and go straight. And it's proven, guys. I read books on this. 17 years old, your resiliency is at this level. At 45 years old, it's here. And then at 60, it's the highest it's ever been. Because you need to go through some stuff. But unfortunately, society doesn't allow you to go through a lot of stuff today. So you have to understand that when things don't go well, it's actually an opportunity to respond from it. With that, 2 other things that I think are really important. One is the pool. Remember the pool when you leave today. Sometimes when things go wrong, you jump in the pool, you get out, you dry off, you leave the pool. Don't put your foot in and be like, I'm really sad. Or don't go up to your knees and I don't know if I should go in the pool. I'm gonna let this bother me for a week. Or don't go up to your waist and just say, geez, I don't know, I'm still upset. She hasn't called me back, or that school didn't admit me. Sometimes you need to just go underwater, get in and get out. Get in and get out. And I'll tell you a story with Xavier this year when I jumped in. And then the last one, my favorite one is the comma. I just got cut from the team, comma. I just got divorced, comma. I spoke in Cleveland a couple months ago, and a woman, I said that, and then she just started crying in the back of the room. And she came up to me after, and she said, I got divorced 3 weeks ago, comma. She goes, thank you, and she walked away. emailed me last week and said, I got divorced, comma. She goes, the comma. Thank you for the comma. It changed my life. So-and-so didn't do this, comma. Something bad happened, comma. Change the period to a comma and add it. So those are 3 things, guys. The menu, the golf ball, the pool, and the comma. I say that because you got to go through some stuff. You got to challenge yourself. You got to leave your comfort zone. Part of being a successful adult usually is somebody who failed. There's a great quote, what didn't go well for me back then actually has gone well for me, really well for me now. And I say that because there's a test they used to do at Harvard in the 1940s and 50s where the kids would get there, freshmen, they put them on a treadmill, and you didn't have to be fit, you didn't have to be an athlete, but they tested how easily they gave up. And they kept track of it all. Everybody follow me? So I'm not super fit maybe, but I don't give up and I keep fighting and I stay on, and there's a way to measure how you fought through adversity. So they kept a journal of this, and then 5 years later the guy followed up with these people and said, how are you doing with the job? What's your income? Do you have a stable marriage? Have you had any type of mental health issues? Have you been fired from a job? Any chemical issues, substance abuse, whatever? And he did it every 5 years for like 30 years. And he found that the people who had the highest grades on the treadmill actually did the best in the life. So they all went to Harvard, right? So they're all smart, but the people who could endure and hang on and grind and fight, and that's what the big buzzword in all these books is about now, is being able to have stamina and bounce back and get through some stuff. And he did it every year for like 40 years. So he followed them into their 60s. And statistically, they did well, and it showed it there. They do the same thing at West Point. So they get there and they do what's called a grit test for the cadets. At West Point, you get 90 seconds when you drop a kid out of school to say bye. They put a stopwatch on. See ya. Imagine that. And the grit test is a battery of things they do early on. And the people who have the highest grit test usually stay and don't drop out, and usually the highest ranking officials. And then they put the grit test next to the ACT and GPAs, and they have nothing to do with one another. Oh, I have a 4.0, I'm super intelligent, but do you have grit? Can you get through adversity? Because the person with the 4.0, that's the best player when you're in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, usually they haven't been told no, they haven't failed, they have not made a team, they haven't gotten a B, they haven't had somebody beat them, and then when they become adults, they have no resiliency, no way to respond. So again, super interesting stuff. A little bit about me, but more about you have to kind of get through it, guys. And as you see something as a negative, actually look at it as an opportunity, because you have control over 2 things when something goes wrong. Your attitude and the response. A couple final stories here. They asked Lloyd Carr, who was Tom Brady's coach at Michigan, his football coach, tell us about Tom Brady. He goes, I get that question all the time. And really, here's what I tell people all the time. Tom Brady came in, I don't know if everybody knows, but there were 7 quarterbacks, and he was the 7th quarterback. And then he became like the 2nd, then became the starter. Then they brought a guy, Drew Henson, in, who was a phenom, drafted by the Yankees and Michigan football. And he started over Tom and took his job. And then Tom won it back. And then obviously Tom came here and was a backup and a 6th-round pick or whatever it was, and really went through some stuff. And Lloyd Carr said Tom Brady rode the roller coaster of ups and downs better than anyone I've ever seen in any sport at any level in my whole career. Didn't say he had the best IQ, he was the best leader, had the best footwork, the best arm. He said he stayed in the middle and responded to adversity the best. Steve Young's another quarterback. Some of you might know him. San Francisco 49ers, lefty, Brigham Young University. He went to Brigham Young University. He was the 8th string quarterback his freshman year. Didn't even get to play in practice. Wanted to quit. His father said, don't come to the house if you quit, because quitters don't live in the house. So he stayed, and then from January 1 till March 1, his freshman year in the indoor facility, he threw 10,000 passes into a net. Next year, he was the number 2 quarterback. Later on, became the number 1 quarterback. Then he went to the pros, and he was a backup, but he already knew how to be a backup because he was a backup at Brigham Young. What happens to a lot of talented pros in the first year? They have to sit, and they don't know how to sit. He also played freshman baseball and got 1 hit and was the worst hitter on the team, wanted to quit, father said not to. He batted .385 his senior year in Utah. Why do I say that? Because him not hitting the ball allowed him to learn how to hit the ball. Him being the 8th string quarterback allowed him to fight to become the 2nd string quarterback. He became the 1st string quarterback, got to the NFL, had to sit again, and had already sat. So on and so forth. I could go on and forever and ever, as you know. You have to live well and be well before you perform well. We're all in performance, we're all in outcome goals. What's your GPA? How many goals did you score? Did you make the varsity team? But you have to start thinking about, like, what is my life like? Am I sleeping enough? Am I eating enough? Do I have good relationships? Am I showering? Is my room neat? Is my car neat? Is my locker neat? Am I getting along with my parents? Am I communicating with people? Am I organized? Do I have my assignments organized? Do I know where all my stuff is? That's the key here. I'd be remiss not to talk about a couple of final things with that. One of them is, my thing with Xavier that I went through. So we played Providence in the fall. My parents came down from Braintree, and the losing, I'm a terrible loser. I still get so upset. I don't ride the roller coaster well, to use an analogy. Recruiting, I took hard, which is part of the roller coaster. You work hard on the kid. You go drive 6 hours, visit his house. He calls you back and says, I'm going to another school. That school didn't even call you or talk to you. Yeah, but they said they thought I could be a professional, and you never said that. Okay. Parents question you about soccer stuff, the travel, the demands. It was a lot. So my father said to me after the Providence game, I think this is getting the best of you. You sure you can do this anymore? And I said, Dad, what else am I supposed to do? I've done this my whole life. I haven't done anything else. And that's my biggest regret looking back, is I didn't think I was capable of doing anything else. But I had a feeling that he was right, and I knew he was right. And my point is this, it's hard to will yourself to like something you don't like. It's hard to do something well if you don't like it. It's hard to do something well if you don't care. And I'm not going to say I wasn't caring, but I didn't like it as much as I used to. So I did it for 25 years. I coached 600 games. But I thought maybe it was time to stop. So I went in to talk to Xavier, and they said, hey, we'd like to meet with you too. And I came in and they go, do you want to go first or should we go first? I said, I'll go first. I said, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. They said, interesting, because we kind of not sure if you should do it anymore. And I was hurt by that. I thought I was going to come in and say, hey, I'm done. And listen, the narrative is that I parted ways and I retired, which I kind of did, but they also didn't try to stop me. And that was hard. So they said they would sleep on it. I went to New York City for the Big East coaches meetings. I'm getting on a plane to leave LaGuardia, and I get an email saying, hey, we're gonna part ways with you. We'll talk to you on Monday. That's how I found out. Devastated, 25 years, just like that, gone. Not on my terms, maybe, kind of on my terms. But I wasn't ready for it, and there was no build up, there was no deterioration phase. So I get on the plane. It's a 1 hour and 48-minute flight from LaGuardia to Cincinnati. I get off the plane an hour and 48 minutes later. I have a legal pad. I have 385 people I'm going to call and 385 things I can do to make money. And I put the comma next to, I'm not going to be the coach at Xavier anymore. I dove in the pool and started my response. Everybody follow me? So that's Friday. And my friends are calling me you should go on a guy's trip, you should take a vacation, you should watch movies. I woke up on Monday morning, called my neighbor, who's a contractor. I lost my Xavier car. They came Saturday, took it. I had no car. I rode a bike 2 miles in February to work for a contractor for $15 an hour, and I demoed a bathroom, and I picked up a 400-pound bathtub with him, carried it down the stairs, and that was the first thing I did when I started coaching. Why did I do it? Because I wanted to dive in. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to go through it. And my son's like, Dad, aren't you going to take a day off? I said, no, Brady, I'm going to go out and make sure we have enough money. Now, I'm paid till September 1, but I was also just trying to prove a point to my son. So that was my response, and I wanted to talk about that. So here I am today, guys. I dove in the pool. I had a good attitude. I built up equity. So over time, if you do the right thing, you put $1 in the bank. You show up on time, put $1 in the bank, you tell the truth, you do your homework, look the coach in the eye, do the right thing, be polite to people. You put $1 in the bank every day, you build up a bank account, and then when you need equity and you need to spend some money and you kind of forgot your homework assignment, you're in trouble, you go pull it out. Everybody follow me? You can build up equity. And you all have that team you've played against. We got him, we're beating them, it's 2-0 with 10 minutes left, and they beat you 3-2. You're like, how did they just do that? They have equity. Is all that kid at your school like, oh, he's the worst luck, the teacher's always out to get him, he never gets a break, it's no fair. No, he doesn't have bad luck, he has no equity. You have to do the right thing and build up equity. So my point is I had enough equity in the game where people called me, and I got a job starting a recruiting agency where I help families with their kids in the college process. And I've been doing it for 3 months, and I have 42 clients already. I'm doing the speaking thing. And then my summer camp sold out, and people drove an hour to my hometown to go to camp. And I thought nobody was going to come because I thought it was Xavier. And the lady, the mother said to me, we come because of the camp, because of what you guys do for the kids, not because it's Xavier. So it worked out pretty well, guys. And I want to tell you it worked out well because, a couple months ago I was down in the hole again. Well, I thought you were the super successful coach. I was. And you looked great, everything was going fine, but I was struggling mentally. And 48 hours ago, everything was going great. And then my wife got a call yesterday morning. She's a contracted employee for Coldwell Banker, an event planner. Supposed to have a job until December. They laid her off yesterday. So here we are again. And I got on the plane yesterday. And I'm not going to fly anymore because every time I fly, something happens. And I sat in the plane. I said, all right, you're going to make more money. We're going to get Amy a job. What's your attitude going to be? And put a comma next to it. Amy got laid off today. Comma here. Okay. Last two things, and these are pretty quick. I call this 5 for the drive. These are 5 things I pulled that I've read recently. It changes every time I speak. Just want to share them, and then this will be it. All right, we're at 1 hour and 17 minutes as advertised. First one, body language doesn't whisper. Body language screams. Change your body language. Watch your body language. Stop with the bullshit body language, because people are watching. And there's nothing more of a worse turnoff than an adult is a mopey teenager with bad body language. You can be upset, but you're going to separate act versus feel. I feel this way, but I'm going to act and project this way. You're going to separate the inside from the outside. Watch your body language. Second one, the easiest person in the world to be is yourself. Be yourself. It's other people telling you not to be yourself. You know who you are. You know who you want to be. Be yourself. Unfortunately, I became myself when I was like 40, 38. And I figured life out when I was like 41. So if you think this is going to happen in the next 2 years, where you're going to get all the answers and things are going to get easy, it doesn't. It's an all-the-time thing. So these skills I'm giving you to leave tonight, I have people email me all the time, hey, 10 years ago you told me about the comma, and this happened to my girlfriend or my wife or my job, and thanks, and you're going to carry these. Handle hard well. Handle hard well. Everybody handles good well, especially coaches. Teams winning, they're up and down the sidelines, they allow goal, and their body language changes. Handle hard well. Work on handling hard well. Recognize it when a bad situation's there and be intentional and really challenge yourself to do a good job with it. Self-talk, 10 times. With that, stop saying stupid stuff out loud. I'm so stupid, this stinks, I'm never gonna make the team. And this girl hates me, I'm never gonna have a girlfriend. It's so stupid, I'm getting my driver's license. Stop saying it. Because your words are 10 times more effective than anybody else's. And there's all these examples out there of people who said stuff out loud and it happened. So Bill Buckner, Boston Red Sox. I talk about this in Ohio. Nobody knows who Bill Buckner is. Unfortunately, everybody does. 19 days before that game, there's video footage of him saying, what's the worst thing that can happen to me? The ball goes through my legs and we lose. Pete Maravich, Pistol Pete, basketball player. What do you think is going to happen? I'm going to have a heart attack when I'm 40 and die? I'm too young for that. I had a heart attack and died when I was 40. So I find myself doing that sometimes. Like, stop saying stuff out loud because it might happen. Okay, but I know the teenagers. And around your team, like, we're never going to win, we suck, we're never going to beat them. Stop saying that stuff. Stop saying that stuff. All right, but that's 5 for the road. Okay? Final 2 things. This really has nothing to do with any of you, but I'm going to leave tonight and go back to Braintree. But I'm here all the time. If any of you want to talk to me or reach out to me, you can get in touch with me through Coach. There's a boy in Cleveland who has terrible OCD, and I'm in touch with him. There's another kid in Cleveland who has such anxiety he won't go to school, so he stays home because he can't walk down the hallway, and he can't open the front door of that school and go in because he gets too nervous. I talk to him. The woman who got divorced with the comma, I'm staying in touch with her. So you might not want to come up and be like, I don't want him to see me talking to me, you know what I mean? But you can talk to me off the record somewhere else. I am going to come back in the fall and visit several high schools and do this for all athletes or all the student body. All right, and just for the grade thing, I give myself like an 86 tonight. I don't think I did great. Usually I'm better than this, but I still think it was effective. My message was effective. But I'm good. I'm really good at this, all right? And just so you know, like, I'm always grading myself. And then the last thing, if you ever need help with the college stuff, the recruiting stuff, like, let me know, because I met over 1,000 kids on the phone. I had 550 kids come on campus, and I saw parents do a great job. I saw kids do a terrible job. I saw them pursue the wrong things. Okay? Final thing, 2 minutes. On May 2nd, 2011, my wife woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and she said, I don't feel well. God, I don't feel well. I said, when are you due? And she said, I'm due 14 days from now. I said, do you think you can have the baby? She said, I doubt it. I went to work. She said, keep your phone nearby. She's like, I just don't feel good. She calls me at 11:38. She goes, come home, I'm having a baby. Get to the house. I walk in, my son is 2. He's just sitting there on the couch. And my wife is laying on the ground. She's like, pack a bag, call an ambulance, I'm having a baby. That whole day didn't feel right. Called the ambulance came, we got in, babysitter came. You ever been in an ambulance? You go through red lights, you go through stop signs, you go down the wrong way or one-way streets. And she's in the back, being like, I'm having the baby. And it was 3 dudes, and like, ma'am, please don't have the baby in the ambulance, because they didn't want anything to do with it. So, as we're driving, and the adults will tell you, as you get older, your gut dictates a lot of decisions. It's scientifically proven that your brain aligns with your gut. So if you think you shouldn't get into a car with somebody who's been drinking, you don't think you should go to a party, or you're not sure about something, usually your gut is right. My gut kept telling me, like, man, something's off today. So we get to the hospital, we pull in, I get the bag, I come around the corner, and the baby's already born, and my wife kept saying, is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? And my wife knew something wasn't right. They take the baby away, we go up in the room. Hour later, knock on the door, doctor looks in, Mr. Fleming, can I see you in the hallway for a second? And I was like, man, my gut was right. So I go in the hallway, and listen, I've told this story 7,000 times. I'm going to smile at the end of it, but right now the suspense is killing me. And he says, we did some tests, Mr. Fleming, on your daughter. What's her name? He said, Devin. And Devin has Down syndrome. And I dropped to the ground. I curled up in a ball. I saw the ceiling and the walls come in. And I thought my life was over. Not because I have a problem with anyone with special needs, but I didn't think I could handle, and my wife could handle, raising somebody with Down syndrome. I used to see people all the time and look at the parents like, oh my God, how do they do that? And ironically, 2 months before, my best friend and his wife were having a baby, and they went and got tested, and they said, hey, we think your baby's gonna have Down syndrome. And I cried for like 2 days because I felt so bad for them. And ironically, we have the baby with Down syndrome. So, I wake up the next morning, and it's my son and I gotta go to the hospital, and I look in the mirror, and I splash some water on my face, and I go, oh man, attitude. You're gonna be the star of the show, man. There's a lot of people depending on you right now. And I had to go tell my team, I had to go tell my boss, like I was gonna get out of coaching. We didn't know what was gonna happen. So that's kind of what I dealt with. And I would tell you that 3 nights ago, Devin was in our living room dancing and singing, and we were laughing hysterically, and she's the greatest thing in the world. And I can't imagine life without Devin. What didn't work out for me well then has worked out pretty well for me now. My daughter has Down syndrome, and it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. My daughter was born with Down syndrome. I curled up in a ball, and then 12 hours later looked in the mirror and said attitude, and took control of it and did a great job with it. So that also goes back to the menu, where I thought of the menu. And somebody said, all right, and I counsel families with Down syndrome kids. I said, think of the menu. And again, if anybody identifies with this, I don't mean to beat the meaning at all, but like abducted, killed in a car accident, lost them to drugs, prison, wheelchair, there's things worse than Down syndrome. And Travis Roy said he had the bottom of the menu, I'll never forget that, and I look at Down syndrome and the menu is pretty good. So why do I say that? Because here's my biggest point that I'm going to end with. If you can engage someone at your school with special needs, or that's a little different, please do so. If you're at the supermarket and you're in line, and I'm always in line when there's 2 people, and I see aisle 7 has like 11, but there's someone with Down syndrome bagging groceries, I go over there and I wait an extra 15 minutes, and I go up to the dude and I give him fist bumps, I read his name tag, say, hey, you're doing a great job, how old are you, ready to go to school? You have no idea how important that is. You have no idea when we walk down the street and teenage kids, seniors in high school, drive by, people go, Devin! Devin waves, everybody knows Devin. And that's a big deal to Devin. Because I was out at a restaurant 2 summers ago with my friend from Braintree. I've known him since I was 4. And this woman came over. He was on his way back from the bathroom. He talked to her for 20 minutes, and I got 30 seconds left. Okay? And he came back. I said, who was that? He goes, oh, you don't know her because you went to Archie's, but her daughter went to Braintree High, and she had Down syndrome. So, well, I didn't have any meet her. He's like, I never thought of that. He goes, but she went to the prom and didn't have a date, and I danced with her all night, let her sit with my girlfriend and I, and the mother said she still has pictures of it and still talks about it. This is 25 years later. So that one little dance, that one little night, somebody remembered forever. Okay? So that's it, 1 hour and 25 minutes. I know it got a little long. I wanted to cover everything. Sports is important. Take sports as far as you can, but understand underneath the hood of sports is life skills, teamwork, accountability, dealing with adversity, accepting your role, dealing with the boss, dealing with coworkers. Because you're going to have a job someday, and I can tell you that athletes do a lot better with jobs than non-athletes. The recruiting piece, you got to do a lot of work. You got to be proactive, you got to get out there, you got to sell yourself, and you got to pick a school for everything other than soccer. Goal setting, branding, academic, athletic, social brand, your crew, building up equity, performance, grading yourself. Do you have grit? Do you have resiliency? Do you have passion? Do you love what you do? And then obviously the last thing, if you're not okay, it's okay, get help. There's plenty of time to be okay. And guess what? Everybody's not okay in some capacity. Everybody needs a little bit of help, and that's okay. All right, so thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Thank you to you guys for your eye contact. I do this all the time, and I'm disappointed a lot with some of the responses I get from the young men. You guys are tremendous with that, and that's a big quality to have. All right, thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Before he goes, anything that you guys want to ask him or?
No one ever does.
Yeah.
Like plenty of people do later on. If you have one later on, just find me. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just recap and say thank you for coming. I mean, obviously, for our program, for especially incoming freshmen, we talk a lot about this stuff. So that's why it was important for you to hear from someone else outside of me, because you guys are like, oh, it's just coach. It's just coach talking about the same thing. At least now, hearing from someone who is at the top of the university game, where you guys all I do is striving to be, and you hear the same message, right? So I believe that it's very important for you to understand, those of you guys who went and read our book 2 summers ago about attitude response equals our outcome, right? Like there's a lot of things, right? We talk about Urban Meyer's book. Like you guys have to read chapters of that when we were getting ready. It's just funny to mention some of the things that they had to do and utilize as a group. I just hope we can take and steal, right, other ideas. I thought some of the stuff that we got to listen to today was excellent. I thought it was excellent. So we'll be using it up at camp in a couple of weeks, and then during our preseason, we'll remember some of these things, right? And some of these future captains here and our current captain, hopefully they'll be able to utilize some of the gifts you gave us now so that we can take it with us for the season. So another round of applause for you. Thanks to the parents. For OA that attended, and also for Emily for letting us to come out and hang out too. But I'll send out a little recap so that you guys have some of these notes as well. I did take notes for it. And actually ECTV or ECAT came out, so thank you very much for jumping in, and will be available to review as well. So Coach Gordy, thank you, Coach Gordy. Mr. Gordy, thank you very much for helping put this together. I know this is a long day for you, but I appreciate you making this happen and coming inside. So thanks so much for everything. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.